Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Ladies Listen Up. But actually, today we're doing a segment on Ladies and Gents Listen Up. So it is going to be a amazing conversation. So we have Mr. Rufus Carpenter back again by popular demand. You're making a splash with the people. They love you. How are
Thank
you
you.
today?
I'm good. Hey, thanks for having me again. As always, it's a pleasure to be there, and I applaud what you're doing for the public. Your message is getting out there and well received. So thanks for having me today.
Thank you. And it's funny because, we said, well, wait, before we get started, don't forget you all like, share, and subscribe. Share this information with somebody else. Go get a girlfriend, and now we can go get the men and bring them on too, because they were talking about it. Like, okay, so you say ladies all the time. Well, what about us? We want to get in on the conversation. So here we go, your own segment. Ladies and gents, listen up. So we're gonna have an amazing conversation today. And but guess what? We can't leave our grandma's cookie jar, right? We gotta talk about
Okay.
what's in grandma's cookie jar. Grandma's cookie jar has nuggets for us. I'm going to reach in here and see. And actually, you know what's funny? I honestly don't plan what I pull out of the jar. I actually put it, there's a couple times when I stuffed it, but I told everybody. But I didn't
Uh-huh.
stuff it. And it goes with our topic today. It says, Your mistakes don't define you.
Okay.
I think that's
Okay.
amazing because today our topic is choosing money over love and regret. Because folks want to
Okay.
hear about relationships, right? They want to talk about
Okay.
relationships. We switched a little bit and went straight focused on money, and that's great, money and relationships. But now folks want to hear about relationships and what an honor it is to have you here to talk to us about relationships. So the ball is in your court. What do you have
Okay.
to put on the table?
Okay, before we go there, let's take a moment to say how thankful we are because tomorrow's Thanksgiving, and
Yes.
I'm like everybody else. I'm on the road. I'm traveling. I'm in Virginia now, going to see my son, two sons. One son just got back from Kosovo as a United States Army person, and we're going to
Oh,
visit my son as a fireman in D.C. So
oh wow.
I'm sure a lot of other people are being traveling today. So I just want to say, be safe, be careful out there, look out, for the people, arrive alive, and I want to take that moment out to say thank you for all of the things. I'm thankful for your show, Dr. Liz. I'm thankful for my family. And I'm thankful so much that God has allowed me to be here on your broadcast, to even be alive, because so many of our family members and friends and coworkers has passed over this
Absolutely.
year. This year has taken a lot of people out. So I want to start by taking a moment and say thank you for allowing me to be here today. Okay.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely. Yeah.
when you
Well, before we go there too, I want to piggyback on what you just said about being grateful and about being thankful, and definitely, and it's so funny how like I said, I don't script out our shows. We do topics and we have conversation. But earlier today, I was just thinking about that. I said, I need to go ahead and do a podcast on grateful, because when you get into that grateful mindset, like I have a whole ritual in the morning, whole thing that I do with praise and worship and being grateful and everything. But the wonderful thing about it is when you get into that grateful mode every single day, it changes the trajectory of your day.
Yes,
When you
yes.
go into it, it's just like if you stump your toe and then all day long, if you don't stop and recalibrate, then all day long everything goes downhill from there. But if you stop and recalibrate it and just stay in that moment, okay, now move on to a positive mindset, you absolutely have a better day and things happen in a more positive way. So just wanted to throw that out there. I'm just so grateful, and thank you for bringing that up and having us to pause, because that's so important.
Okay,
So
now let's get into the subject. The subject
yes,
is
yes,
love, money, and regrets, correct?
yes,
Okay, and I'm glad you did this because in relationships, love, money, and sex and regrets are something that is big in our community. A lot of times when you look for advice about love, sex, money, these when you start looking for these things, where do you look for that at? Where do you get the advice from?
mm,
I notice I'm a church goer. And I notice a lot of times when I go to church, I'm not hearing this about love and money. And those are some of the areas where we make our biggest messes in love and money. So
mm-hmm.
where do you get that advice? And I'm glad you're having a podcast like this so we can go through it. As a matter of fact, towards the end, I'm gonna ask you two questions that's been bothering me about love and money.
Awesome.
First, my
Okay.
thoughts about love.
Mhm.
I think love is something that's deep within inside of you. And I think, and I know there's all kind of loves. There's the love of my friends. I love to meet you at the ball game, or I love to meet you at the library. I love to meet you at Lowe's. I love to meet you at the movies. That type of love. Then you have that love for family. You love your family, you love your children, you love your spouse, significant other, you love those. Then I'm sure you love your whoever it is in your life, whether it's God or whether it's Allah or whatever it is, you have that love. So when I think of love, I'm thinking about what I feel for a person, not so much what a person feels for me. Because I think if I say I love you, Dr. Liz, I'm loving you for what I feel inside, not what you can give me or do for me or that. Now, hopefully, it's a balance.
Right.
It's not
Right.
one
Right. Right.
sided.
Right. Well, I think when you just that point that you just made about that's just a great point because I think oftentimes we miss the mark because we don't we talk about like somebody's love language, right? We
Mm-hmm.
talk about the love languages, and when we say we're loving somebody from how we love, oftentimes we miss the mark because what how they receive love, they may not even be receiving that message that you love them. So it's so funny because even in that whole the five languages of love, like I studied
Mm-hmm.
that, and it helped me in parenting with my children. Because
Mm-hmm.
what my mother used to always tell me, she used to say, I love all my children the same. And even as a young little rebel girl, I used to get in trouble because I always challenged that if it didn't make sense to me. And so loving, I learned that you can't love all of your children the same. I get what she was
Yes.
saying, the equal amount of love. I get that, but you can't love them all the same because they all require something different and they all
Yes.
receive something different. Just like when we go out, and we meet somebody, you can't love this person the same as you love this person because it's a different, like the chemistry is different, what you both, your beliefs, your thoughts, all of that is different. So learning what the love languages is, it did a lot for me understanding. And if you really care about somebody, if they, just for instance, if you think I'm going to give them flowers to show my expression of love, but what if their love language is personal time or personal touch? And so if you haven't taken the time to really get to know the person, you don't know that they don't even like flowers. They like personal touch or they like quality time. So I think that's one of the things that our community missed. We missed the mark with stopping and getting to know one another because everybody's looking at the physical or the instant sexual gratification. They're not looking at the long term or what does it how does that person receive love. So I think that's a part of missing the mark when you're talking about showing your love for somebody.
Yes. Yes. So I think I heard, if I heard you correct, you're telling me that love is more of a communication and time investment. Did I hear that correct?
You said time investment and give me that one more time. You said time
Communication
investment,
and
communication.
communication or time investment. Am I hearing you correct?
But see, that's coming from me because that's my love language, right?
Okay.
So
All right.
everybody's love language is going to be different, but communication I think is key in everything.
And the reason why I said that, because when I was a twin, I was born a twin, I had a twin brother. My name is Rufus, his name was Ruben. And he ran away from home when we were, I think, like 8 or 9 years old, because he felt mom loved me more than she loved him. So he ran
Mm.
away from home because of that. And when we found him and he came back, and mom assured him that she loved us the same, but there's this difference. At that time I was a sickly guy, so I stayed close to my mom, and because my mom felt I needed a little more nurturing than he needed, that's my twin brother translated that as being that he wasn't as loved, and that created a problem all throughout my life.
Mm.
I realized early on that I get attached to people quickly. And I, for a long time, thought I loved everybody. And because of that, I got hurt over and over and over again, because now I realize you can't love everybody. Everybody ain't gonna love you the
Ooh,
same.
say that one more time, please. Say that again.
You can't love everybody. You can care for them. You can have a Christ-like love for them, but you can't actually throw your heart out and carte blanche give it to them, because you will be walked over. Everybody don't appreciate who you are to them.
I'm so glad that you're saying this from a male perspective. I'm so happy that you're saying that, because our audience needs to hear that. It needs to know that it's not just from the woman's side, because women are so nurturing, and that's just by nature. But men are nurturers as well, and
Correct.
like you're saying, they can love, but I think men are taught to suppress more. They're taught
Correct.
man up and all this other stuff, versus like learning how to let that wall down. So I think we do have a big communication issue going on.
Yes, because see, my life has been a life of servitude. I want to be helpful, because when I was 14 in my family, when we came up, and everybody had to pitch in. I can remember times when I would go out on the weekends and do side hustles. I would pick up bottles. I would rake people's yard. I would stack wood. I would wash people's cars. And I remember this one particular weekend that I made $35, and $35 like 21 cents. And I ran home to my mom to give her that money. And my mom was so pleased that I gave her that money. She said, "Huh, son, she gave me $1 and like $1 and whatever change was, like 35 cents. She gave me that." I said, "Baby, this is for you." And she said, "I'm so proud of you." And she kissed me on my forehead. That moment made me and shaped my rest of my life, that I became a servant. I always saw the joy and the need to participate, to be a part of the solution versus the problem. And that's what made me a lover. That's what made me love people, because I was always wanted to help and be a part of that. So as I grew older, I didn't realize that there were sharks in the water. I didn't realize that. And then I found out that you can't love everybody. And then this is a good time to transition to the part of our relationship when you said the money.
Right. Right.
Because before I get off love, let me say, I think love is a spiritual thing, because, we're all spirits, and God, we're supposed to be more Christ-like. So we're supposed to love. We're supposed to have agape love. So that's a spirit. Now let's talk about money. Money a tool. And I think money is spiritual in my way of thinking. Now, this is me talking. Money to me is a spiritual thing too. Money is a great tool to bring us together. It's a conversation piece, and it bonds people. It makes connections. Because when you go into a marketplace, a lot of times you don't know anybody.
Right.
And if you go into marketplace as an entrepreneur, you really don't know anybody. But once you get to have those relationships through money, through your goods and services and providing value, people give you their money, and that starts a relationship. Now, those relationships are sometimes commercial relationships, sometimes they can become friendships, sometimes they partnerships, but those relationships start because of that value of that money.
Right. Right.
So when you tie love and money together, you get a lot of regrets and a lot of happiness.
I like that. I like that spin that you just put on it when you tie love and money.
Now, from our last podcast, we talked about no money, no honey. So I guess this is no money part, no money, no honey part 2.
Well, actually, it's choosing love over money and regret. That's what. But I like the spin that you put on it. It's like, wait a minute. Okay, I'm thinking here. Wow, I like that what you just said about that. Communicating about money. When you're transferring the money, you're starting a relationship with that person. And, if they provide a great service or what have you, then you become, a customer over and over and over again, So, wow, that's a real good, I never even thought about it that way, but that's exactly how it happens. And if you really, really treat your customers well and connect with them and all of that, then you have repeated customers and you started a community. So, yeah, I think that's great. But we all go back to what we said at first, communicating, right?
Yes.
I'm answering that question over and over again, more cementing it, that communication is the key. And I think oftentimes we get this communication issue because maybe somebody is communicating one thing And I know women, I've talked to many, but
Mhm.
and you know, women take that communication as something different.
Correct. Because a lot of times I know throughout my relationships with ladies throughout the years, when you get to that communication piece, when late at night, when you sit there and she said, "Honey, let's talk," and in my head, oh no.
Ladies, listen up. Hear what he's saying. Choose your times wisely. That's not the time to bring up the conversation. You just say I used to say in marriages, you want to make sure that you know your partner, so you know when to come in and talk about money. You know when to talk about the honey too. You know when not to talk about the money or the honey.
Before we get into that piece, let me clear something up from our last conversation, our last podcast. The
Okay.
last podcast, I thought about it after we talked about it. I thought about some of the things we said, and we might have gave a missed message, because it might have been that some people might have saw that we saw ladies as gold diggers, and we saw ladies that no money, no honey, meaning that if you don't give her the money, you're not getting any honey. And that could have had a wrong message. And I want to clear that up.
Did you get feedback about that?
Well, it's not so much feedback. I always am accountable for what I say.
Got it.
And
okay.
When I make mistakes, I want to fess up and say, "Hey, I made a mistake."
Got it.
Hindsight, I'm thinking about it, that maybe I should have said that it can go either way, men or male or female, but I didn't want people to walk away from that with a takeaway that women are after money. That wasn't in my heart. Right. So if I did that, I apologize for that. And that wasn't what I was saying, no money, no honey. What I was saying is that if you don't have the money, it's hard to have a relationship broke.
That's how I took it, and that's the feedback that I got was that like, you gotta bring something to the table, but it's on both sides though.
Correct.
It's really on both sides, because you have to bring something to the table and then be willing to share what you bring to the table. You know what I'm saying? So that's the kind of no money, no honey kind of thing that I was thinking about. But you know what? And just in that vein too. So there's a mixed message going on about when you bring something to the table that that you're not willing. That if you're not willing to share, what you're bringing to the table, about people coming together. It's just like what you said about somebody being broke, because being broke could be, you could have had it at one point and then everything gets taken away by whatever, car accidents or whatever happens, something happens. So do you just walk away from this person because they are working towards building themselves back up? You know what I'm saying? And some people are like, okay, go back to that no money, no honey thing, where the person is right here, right now. There's no money. So, however you got there. I think it's a difference in somebody working their way back up or somebody that's just sitting on their behind playing video games.
Correct.
It's a difference in those. It's a difference in those scenarios. But a lot of people are just stuck with it. Either you have to have this, and this, or it's a deal breaker.
Okay. And that's why I wanted to bring that out before we got into the next part of this podcast. Because I'm a male, so a lot of times when I talk about my relationships, I'm talking about females. I'm talking about how I encounter females. But I don't want you to think that I'm talking about females, because it's both. It's male and female. So Absolutely. When I say female, it's because that's who I gravitate towards. But I'm saying male and females because they have the same traits and behaviors and same patterns. Absolutely. So don't get confused. I'm not bashing females, because I love you to death.
Well, see, the thing is, and the reason that it works when it's a male and a female on the panel, because we can come from our perspective, and so we get the perspective coming from the male, which helps. Like you said, where do we get the information and education from? And oftentimes we're not having these open, honest conversations to put it on the table. But coming from the male's perspective, we see things different. Remember, women are from Venus and men are from Mars. So we need that perspective coming from the male, and we need the perspective coming from a female, because I have both that are saying, wow, that was a great conversation because I learned this on how men think, or I learned this on how women think. And it's often very, very different. So I think that's where that communication part comes in and play, because you got to be willing to open up and talk. Of course, protect yourself, but open up and talk.
Now that we can got that, the air is clear now. Now we can get real messy. Ready to get
Okay.
messy?
Let's go on and get messy. Let's go on and get
All right.
messy. That's why we have a
Yes.
warning label on this. Ladies, listen up, and gents. So go ahead. What we talking about?
Now we're talking about the money part. We're talking about value now. We're talking about value. I've been ebb and flow in my life. There's times in my life when I've been fat cat, hey, rolling over 200,000 a year, doing it well. And then there's times in my life between blessings where, hey, I was needing some help. And then I, went up to rolling fat cat again. But in those times, I met people when I was up and I met people when I was down. Now, when I was down, there were some ladies in my life that stepped in and did a lot of things for me. We'd go out to dinner and stuff. They would pay, no question mark. And they helped me out to get over that. And then vice versa, when the time came when I was back, it was time, and I realized those, and I think those ladies and did my part. But a lot of times when you talk to people, everybody has an agenda. Everybody has an agenda. And the people say, nah, I don't have an agenda. Everybody have an agenda. Even if that's an agenda to have a better life or to help someone, you go in with a purpose in mind. No one goes in just blank, well, what happens, happened. I'm a deer in headlights. What happened, happens. Everybody got an idea or a plan or agenda for their life. And if you don't watch out, they got a plan, agenda for your life too.
Okay.
Here's 2 questions I want to ask you, Dr. Liz, because I need a woman's point of view.
Okay.
And I want to make sure I get it right. What is this thing I heard it called life of beauty? What is that?
Life of beauty?
Yeah, the term life of beauty. You ever heard that term before?
So you probably should have prepped me for that one, because no, I haven't. So I don't know what that is. We'll have to do some research and put it in the comments. No, I don't. And when you ask me the second question, though, I want to go back to something that you said about the agenda part. But go ahead. Let's stay on this road, because we might be 2 for 2. What's the other question?
We answer the first question, or you can go to the second question. What am I doing?
Well, the first question, I have no idea what the life of beauty is. You have some sense of it that we can discuss.
We'll come back to that. We'll come back.
Okay, let's
now, the second question is, and this is from the heart. I'm not playing. This is from the heart. I noticed in relationships I had, about that 7th or 8th month in relationship, and these are people that I really, really were into.
Okay.
They would always come to part what says, and I noticed when I was doing really well, it was somewhere between $500 and $1,000, and they would say, "Hey, look, I ran a tight. Can you give me somewhere between $500 to $1,000?" And that happened. If it was one time, I would say okay. If it was 2 times, I would say maybe. That happened about 3 or 4 times. Is that a love test or is that a procedure? Because I'm curious.
So I'm going to pull out.
You make me so comfortable.
I'm going to pull out the lady handbook, because no.
Tell me that, because if it was 1 time or 2 times, no problem. But this is about 4 times.
Okay, so I'm gonna answer that question the same way that I answered my son, and he's gonna probably get me. I said, "Baby."
I told you to get messy.
I know, but see, this is the thing. And, oh my gosh. Okay, so this is the thing. Help me out, audience, because just truthfully and honestly, coming from the heart of things, you know what? It's that upfront communication. It's the relationship that you are establishing with one another. It's what it's and that's the key. That's the foundation. Because no, there's no rule. It's yes, that probably is a test. It probably is a test, but everybody don't. It's like you said, a lot of people don't come in with, if it's an agenda, not a hidden agenda, but the agenda is, okay, let's get to know one another and let's make this relationship work. Let's be, let's bring it to the table. Of course, you don't come in the first couple of weeks or whatever, dropping all your guards, because you still have to know who you're in front of. Mm-hmm. But it's having that honest communication up front. And it's nothing wrong with stating what it is that you want clearly and what it is that that person wants clearly. Now, do people get in jams along the line? Well, yeah, they do. But I think that it's, well, for me, and I can only speak for myself, I think
Mhm.
it's when you have that open communication with one another, and you decide what your goals are, what you're looking for in a relationship, and as you're working along, if something happens, a bump in the road or whatever, and you're having transparency in the relationship, then you're gonna know that it's something going on, and you're gonna help one another. So, if I mean, are you building together? Are you growing? What are you doing? What is the objective of this relationship? I believe we're beginning it with the end in mind. You meet somebody, you start ebbing and flowing with them, you get to know them, and all these things. But as you start, if dependent, is the relationship for just now, or is the relationship something that you're both like, okay, eventually our goal is to be married, is to form this, because a relationship to me is just like forming a business relationship. You're putting everything down. You're doing check-ins to see if each other is fulfilling each other needs and stuff like that. So for me, somebody asked me once before about you know moms tell daughters to have a secret stash, but it's
Mhm.
a thing of when you get into a marriage, a committed relationship, if you want me to be okay and I want you to be okay, my philosophy is that you have a bank account for one another, for the household needs. If you're living together, household needs, then you have a bank account for yourself and a bank account for him. It's not a secret, but you both have discretionary money. That's working together as a team. Now, when you establish that, is when it's comfortable for both of you, and you're working and you're working and you're working together, and you've decided that this is our committed relationship. We are getting married. This is our family. Da 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 da. But in between, I don't think that there is no obligation for the male or the female to give $1,000 or better. That's just I mean, you want each other to be okay, so you help each
Mhm.
other to be okay. But I know there's not a 7 month mark, and I say, okay, 7 months, I need $1,000. and then two, if you're in that relationship together, you're going to make sure that each other's needs are taken care of anyway. So there is no secret time that something just comes up, you know?
So that's not a test. I mean, I want. I didn't
No,
say
I'm
that to be
saying that
funny. I was
it's
really
not
sincere.
it's not a unwritten law or written test or whatever. Because if you're caring for one another, you're giving anyway. So it's no, you're giving and you're making sure that each other is okay along the way. So I there's no written test. Like I told my son, I said, he said, Mom, they don't make them like you anymore. It's like, I said, well, you have to make sure again upfront that you're having good communication, and that this person, you guys have a lot in common. Like you have commonalities that are, things that are common with each other. Like is your thought of relationships, your, how you handle money, all of these things. Is it compatible? Because oftentimes men and women are with people that aren't compatible for the betterment of both. People, a
Hmm.
lot of times folks are, it's me fi me. So if
Hmm.
you're not a me fi me person, and you're trying to make a me fi me person a team player, then that's why you're getting these type of results.
Okay. Let me share something with you, just so I can lighten this up a little bit, so we can change the flow a little bit. I was looking at the
I need
movie
some tea.
Burlesque, and I think the movie starred Christina Aguilera and Cher.
Hmm.
Are you familiar with that movie?
What's the name of it again?
Burlesque.
No.
Okay, it's a movie about burlesque. It's Cher and Christina Aguilera. They're in there and they have this burlesque club where the ladies sing to the popular lip sync to the popular hits. And
Okay.
throughout that, the thread throughout that movie was that people are looking for love and money, and they were using the money to buy the love. The guys were using the money to buy the love. The ladies were using the money to purchase the love, to purchase love.
Okay.
That whole movie,
Hmm.
you could see how money went back and forth and how it manipulated the subject, and that tool of money was used for the pleasures of
Right.
people's
Right.
company,
Right.
and it was interesting. They see it that way because they did it. It was innocent. It wasn't it wasn't prostitution and that kind of stuff. It wasn't that, but it
Mhm.
was where money played a significant part in relationships.
So I think it does, though. I think money does play a significant part in the relationships, meaning that because of the world that we live in, money is a defense and a shield. So
Correct.
if so either party, if you are, just like for instance, I believe it's Judge Lynn Toller. Okay,
Correct.
she talked about how when she met her husband of now 25 years, when they first met, she was in, a good part of her career. Things were going great for her. But for him, he had gotten out of divorce. He had about, I think it's 4 to 6 children. So his finances weren't in the best area, but he had the know-how. And so, they did come together, and he put his law practice on hold or put it on the back burner, and he teamed up with her, and look what happened. They blew up together. But it still wasn't just her, me by me, right? It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
him. I'm just trying to see what I can get from her. He brought a whole bunch of value to the table. And so she had the finance and he had the know-how, and then she blew up with TV shows and all this other stuff. So again, money does play a significant role because it is a defense and a shield. But I don't think that it has to be the male or the female. I think a lot of times the ego gets to playing this role of, that's the issue. It doesn't have to be that way because, again, like you said, anything can happen to anybody at any time. And if like I had an accident, a horrific car accident.
Mm-hmm.
I had 3 businesses going at that time. It totally knocked me off my square. I was divorced and I had 3 children.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you go through savings and everything else when you have an accident and those bills and stuff start coming
Mm-hmm.
in. So again, does that take away from the quality or the character or the potential of that person because they have a life altering something that happens to them? Or like he did, he had a divorce. The thing is, does that person have the grit and the oomph to get back up and keep getting in the game no matter what?
Yeah.
And does that person have that? So that's the type of person that, again, it's that compatibility issue. Is it somebody that's, like sometimes, it's the physical. It's
Mm-hmm.
the big butt and the big boobs and everything else, I mean, that's what the issue is. And that's what I was telling my son. You talk about, your mom and your sisters and you want somebody to be there in your corner. Well, you have to stop looking at the physical and start talking to the person and see what they have to really offer. And not just what they're saying, what are they showing you? What are they demonstrating over time? Are they in your corner? Are you in their corner? Is it an ebb and a flow? Then it's no, okay, maybe he needs $1,000 because something happened. So is that an issue for me to support him when he's in need and all the resources and everything that he's making it better for us in a whole? And I know that's not today's philosophy. A lot of it is, okay, give me, but are you willing to wait it out or are you going to sit there and sacrifice? Are you going to, it's not sacrifice, are you going to wait it out or are you going to settle?
All right, now I gotta tell you, Dr. Liz, you had me up until that part you said when you start doubting the big button to smile.
I'm not doubting it, and I'm not saying that you can't have it.
Up until that point.
I'm just saying that that's the problem.
So I'm a
that is
fella.
here lies the problem, fella. Don't come asking me a question. And she,
But no,
wait a minute, she may be willing to go work it out, work in the gym, so she can't do some squats to get that big butt. But go for the brain first, guys.
But now let me talk heart. Let me talk heart to heart here.
Okay.
But now, what's important to me? When one of my BCI students told me about the balance sheet. She said, Rufus, when you talk about love and money and regrets, she says about a thing called a balance sheet. She said, everybody have to put it into that balance sheet. And thinking about what she told me, that's correct for me. Because you don't always remember the good times, but you always remember who was down there with you in the struggle. You realize who struggled with you to get to where you are. Like that movie, And Your Blasted, that movie, how she got her groove back or something about this thing when she was with her husband and he married this white woman and she was broke and all that. What movie was that?
I'm gonna talk about a movie too, as we talking about the movies, but I
I
don't
think
remember that movie.
I think Stella got a groove back. I think that's the
Stella got
movie.
a groove back. Oh
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
okay,
that's the movie.
yeah. Ooh, that was one
Yeah,
of my
I think that's the
favorites.
movie. And she's talking about she should have left his butt a long time ago. It's a
Oh
song,
yeah. Wait to
Mary
exhale.
J. Blige sang that song. She left a long time ago. But
11 whole years.
yeah, but my
Right.
thing is, if I can struggle with somebody and we struggle through the tough times and everything is balanced and we work together, to me, that's love. That's that's when
So
I
good.
can shake. That's when I can look and say, well, I have something here because you were willing to put in the time when it was rough. And you and I struggled and we got through this together. And
Right.
that's what's very important to me. That's what I call committed relationship. That's
That's
what I
you.
call, and
Well,
that's me. That's why I'm a hopeless romantic. Hey,
well, see,
what
it's
can
the
I
intent.
say?
I always said it. You know, when I did relationship segments in the past, I said interrogation because it is an interrogation at the beginning. You know, because you they have to check those boxes. How do they think? And then as you go along, how are they acting with how they're thinking? So my
Mm-hmm.
movie that I looked up when we said we're going to talk about this topic was Acrimony, 2018. If you have not saw that movie, I'm telling you, it it totally depicts our conversation today. It's
How
Taraji
you spell it? How you spell it?
Acrimony. It's Acrimony. It's Taraji P. Henson and Lyrique Bent. I think it's Bent or Bert. It's
Okay,
Bent. It's
all right.
Bent.
I'll look at
Bent.
that.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness. It talks about, it shows bitterness, malice, anger, rage. It has all of that. It's a psycho thriller, so secure yourself when you watch it. But it was so amazing because it does talk about choosing money over love and regret. And I won't tell you the story, but I will say this. So it does depict that about money and about staying with somebody through the money. But it's a
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Perry movie, so it has a huge twist to it.
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes people will stay with you or be with you in it, but they're not completely sold out in it because
Mm-hmm.
of one thing. They're looking for that one thing to make them turn the other way. You know what I'm saying? They're looking for that one thing to
Yes.
say, yep, nope, 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 not for me. But if you're in it, and that's my thing. I watched my mother and my father for over 40 some odd years. I watched their love. And for me, it depicted, I want to say fairy tale, nothing is perfect. We get that. We're gonna
Mm-hmm.
have but through that whole time I only saw them get into an argument, a serious argument 3 times. But they always had this, I'm in it to win. I'm in it to the end. This is it. There is no out. Like we talked about last time, burning boats. There was no out for them. So they figured it out. They worked it out together. And when you have that, for me, that's what love means to me. You get in it with somebody and you both, you have the interrogation at the beginning, and but throughout the relationship you check in with one another because we're changing and we're growing and we're flowing. So you check in with one another, periodically. People say don't compare
Mm-hmm.
it to a business, but you check in, and then you really listen to the person. You learn their love language, and then you make sure that I think it's, don't let the other person outlove you. So if there's going to be any
Wow.
competition, there's going to be any competition, that should be the competition. It should be, I want the best for you. I want you to grow. I want you to flourish. But that takes a lot of being confident in yourself, and it takes a lot of self work, getting over your past traumas, your past hurts, and not bringing them to the table to make that person pay for what happened to you in the past, where you're always side eyeing them. That takes a lot of energy and a lot away from loving somebody to the fullest. So for me, I'd rather wait it out and then to settle. Because for me, settling days are over.
Okay. Let's go to that last piece. So we talk about regrets. I think we
Okay.
talked about love. We talked about money. Now we haven't talked about regrets.
Okay.
Regrets. Since this is almost the end of November, I'm going to challenge myself and your audience and you too that
Mm-hmm.
not let this month end without going back, and if you have to apologize or going back and forgive yourself and forgive others who have you felt have wronged you, have you wronged them throughout your life, regret. I'm asking, and I'm gonna ask myself first to reach out to those people, and even if they're already passed on, just say a prayer and just reach out and do those things and make it right. Because don't let November end with you having regrets of not saying those things, not apologizing, or not being whole and complete.
Mm-hmm. And I want to
Because, but
go ahead. I was going to add something there. One, as long as it's safe, and two, if it's not safe, you can still let it go by writing a letter and then tearing it up, because you're letting it
awesome.
go, and you're helping yourself to heal and let it go. Because in naturopath or naturopathic work, we know that that negative energy is toxic to your body.
Yes.
So that's what it means about letting it go and letting it out and not walking away with it. Because 9 times out of 10, that person has forgot all about it. They're not even thinking about it. It's you that's harboring it. So
Correct.
that's my, and I love what you just said about the challenge, because that's an amazing challenge. So absolutely. So the ball is in your court to carry us home.
Okay, hey, it's been fun. It's been great. Once again, be safe on the road. We ask that you are thankful for at least one or two things that you can throw right off the top of your head you're thankful for. I'm thankful that God has given me another day and another chance that I can run this race and I can run and end it well. So with that, I turn it back over to you, Dr. Liz.
All righty. I second that emotion. There's nothing else for me to add to that except for don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Share this information with somebody else. And again, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Be safe, be well. Y'all stay fearless. Bye for now.
See you soon.